We'll give it another minute or two and then we'll get started. Get the camera to follow good. How are y'all doing today? Good. Yes, ma'am.
Your last class is 3 to 5. You think you're gonna for that long?
For social media, yeah.
Okay.
Just how many people do we have?
That's the one for 12. So this one's 17 were registered. For
Okay.
the first two and then 12.
Then 12. Okay. Yeah, because we're gonna go over the game plan.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. We'll just give it a few extra minutes. Do I have anybody here who has not signed up for Zipforms yet? I know you haven't done a transaction. You haven't signed up at all. Brand new. Like you just literally came from next door.
Scared.
Don't be scared. Zipforms is a very easy tool. It's a great way of being able to pull your transactions together electronically. You can use it on a tablet device. You can use it on a laptop device. Really easy. Just need internet access. You'll access more than 490 plus CAR forms to buy, sell, lease properties in the state of California. Okay. We're going to go over a lot of basics. So today we'll go over how to sign up for it.
Okay.
We'll also go over how to make a transaction. Super easy, simple. And now that I think about it, I forgot one piece of material so I can demonstrate a tool and I'll be right back.
So your passport is used to for applicants or doesn't? We're supposed to use our laptop and such.
You don't have to, but if that's an easier way for you to learn how to do things, then I'd highly recommend it. You're welcome. All right. So let's see, 2, 4, 6. 6 out of 17. An extra minute, and then I want to. Listings is the password. So Ocar Auditorium password listings, LIS. Everybody ready for Christmas and the holidays? No one's ready for the holidays? Yeah, go for it. So unfortunately, I can't tell you what contracts you need for a transaction, but at least you'll know how to put together one easily. And we'll go over, and I think because some of you are brand new, you'll only be accessing the new version of Zipforms. So, which is fine. We're going to go over and spend our time on that because I'm expecting that sometime in the, very shortly, they'll only have the new version. So those of us who have been in it a couple of times have that choice, classic or new. We're going to focus on the new because it's super easy to use. What was that? Oh, yes. So what I'm doing is I'm obviously recording today's meeting. So I encourage tons of questions. What I'll usually do is I get it to our education department and they should be able to forward it out to all the attendees. If not, I'll give you my email address. My email address is Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org. So ocrealtors.org. And feel free to email me and I'll make sure that you get a copy of this recording because it is also going to be on Orange County Realtors' YouTube channel as well as mine. That way you at least have some way of accessing. Okay. And if you haven't been to car.org's website, this is where we're going to this is where you want to go for all your state provided benefits. You'll notice that there's a person sitting in a chair and probably everybody's computer is probably showing somebody a little bit different. Why? These are all agents within California. If you ever want free advertisement, what you're going to do is when you go here to the website where it says that person's name, in this case, Ryan Haas of Santa Monica, has been a member since 2004. Simply click on that agent's name and choose submit an application. That'll go directly to CAR, and then CAR will actually reach out to you and say, come on in on this date at this address. And then you'll sit in that whatever chair, a red chair, a yellow chair, or that blue chair, have your picture taken, and then you'll get put on that rotation to go. Because every time we go here and maybe you refresh the screen, you're going to see a different agent sitting in that chair, which is great. Free advertisement. Why? Because they have an area here where it says find a realtor for members of the public to go to if they ever want to find a real estate agent. So they don't have to necessarily go to Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin or any of those third-party websites. They can go directly here to the state website. All right. So real quickly, let's get started because I want to respect everybody's time because we got a ton of information to go over today. And I'm going to turn off the light here. Okay, I can't see. That make it a little bit easier to see? Good. Hey, how you doing, sir? What's up with this? You're walking with a walker? Your wife kicked you? Well, I don't know what to tell you on that one. It's a holiday season. You should be accommodating her. All right. Quick introduction of who I am. My name's Anthony. I work here at Orange County Realtors. Been here now officially over 21 years. Started off in the MLS department, guaranteed I will speak to all of you regarding, say, rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. What I'm also involved with here at the Orange County Board is our outreach program. Basically, what outreach allows me to do is to go out to your offices to give you training on all your tools and products. So I'll go out to the various different brokerages, depending on who your broker is, If they've asked me to come in, I train on MLS. So I showed agents how to run searches, add and modify listings, create CNAs, all that fun stuff that MLS allows us to do. I also train on Zipforms. This is our big class today, the introduction of Zipforms. For those of you who haven't been using Zipforms or brand new to the system, we're going to go over that today. And of course, I love showing tech. I love showing real estate agents how they can utilize their technology tools to better their real estate lives. Okay. I like to go and try to help you become what I like to call the paperless agent. Maybe not get rid of paper fully, but maybe get rid of enough of it to make your lives a lot easier. So I love showing you how you can utilize your mobile or tablet devices to access MLS, to access Zipforms, to access other things, right? Electronic listing presentations, or in this case, as of next year, just presentations in general to both your sellers as well as your potential buyers. Able to market yourself. If you're here this afternoon, we're going to go over some social media basics on how to set up your Facebook business page appropriately, how to set up your YouTube channel to get into video marketing, things like that. And of course, if you're here for a later afternoon, to go over a game plan basics of how to become consistent with content. Maybe even drop in a little AI in there to help you develop content. Yes, ma'am.
How often do you repeat these classes? Like when you meet vendors?
Right now, I think it's once every quarter. I think we're looking at modifying it for next year just a little bit, just because we want to go, incorporate new and better things. I think we actually are looking at doing some basic AI classes. Who's your broker? HomeSmart. Which HomeSmart Evergreen? So Randy Rector, Lisa Schultz office. Have them reach out to me. I usually go out. I know to Laguna Miguel as well as Huntington Beach, because we just had an AI class in Huntington Beach last, I want to say 3 weeks ago. So just some basics of that. So yeah. So if it's not here, I'm not your office for sure. All right. So with that said, we're going to start off by going to the main website, car.org. California Association of Realtors' main website. So Zipform is a state-provided member benefit. This is what your state dues pays for. So how many of you have gotten your dues renewal in the mail? Excellent. How many of you got the email about your dues renewal? Most of us. Good. So part of that dues renewal is, for those of you who are everybody here who's a realtor, pays for your state benefits. Your state benefits provide you many, many benefits, right? Not only access to your electronic contracts platform, but also free legal advice. I love that because now you've got CAR attorneys, real estate attorneys able to give you free legal advice. Now here's the catch though. Say I'm in dispute with an agent over a transaction. Maybe I'm feeling that they're kind of being a little shady. I don't know how to protect my clients, and my risk management team is on vacation, heaven forbid. Reach out to their legal hotline, CAR. Now, here's the cool thing with this. Mike here and I are in a dispute. I give CAR a call at 213-739-8282, which is their legal hotline. They take my name. They now take the address of the property that I'm inquiring about. Now they give me the free legal advice. But then all of a sudden, an hour later, or even 10 minutes later, Mike reaches out to the CAR legal hotline about the same property. The CAR legal team all of a sudden goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, I cannot give you free legal advice because Anthony has already called us about this property. You're going to have to reach out to an attorney." So first come, first serve. They will not give contradictory legal advice to agents regarding one property. So it's vital that if at any given time there's a question, I don't know what contract I need, I don't know what to write on a contract, or hey, I just need to be able to advise my client, how can I officially do that legally? Give them a call right away. Okay. Yes, sir.
But they ask you who the other agent is.
They will,
So
because
they
when
know.
the other agent calls, they know exactly who, right? that you're dealing with,
So if they know, why would they do that once?
because if they're already giving advice to the opposite side, it's conflict of interest. Right? That's like saying if I went to Cheatham Doing How and you went to Cheatham Doing and How for the same, for the same legal issue, right? Dealing with the opposite side, they can't legally represent both sides. They can only legally represent one side over the other. Okay? And I use Cheatham Doing and How as an example. I don't think that there's a real law office by that name. All right. So real quickly, for those of you who are brand new, we need to actually access Zipforms. This is your first time accessing Zipforms. What we're going to do here is that when you go to the main website, you're going to look for this big giant round circle up there that says Access Realtor Secure Transactions. From here, you're going to click on Transactions. And now you're going to be able to access all these cool free tools. One of which says Transactions Zipforms Edition. You're going to go over to where it says Access Now. Now, if this is your first time accessing CAR.org's website, you're going to now need to make sure before you log in that you create a username and password. Now, this can be the same as MLS if you choose. How you register yourself as a user, we're going to simply come over here towards the right-hand side where it says new to CAR.org. We're going to click on register. From here, we're going to put in our NRDS number. Now, your NRDS number, or politely referred to as your NERDS number, which, by the way, every realtor is a nerd. Now, anybody can remember back in the days of school, nerds weren't cool? Guess what? We ruled the world. And every realtor you know is a nerd. So, that NRDS number is issued to you by the association itself. So, Orange County members, that number should begin with 2055 and follow it up with 5 other numbers. You're going to put in that number. Then you're going to put in your legal last name. What's on your DRE license? So here you're going to put in that number, then your legal last name, and then you're going to hit submit. When you hit submit, CAR, because they get information from the association, your cell number and or your email address, it's going to send you an authentication code to verify that you are you. You're going to find that email in your email. You're going to click on the link and you're going to copy and paste that security code. Once you put in that security code, you are then going to be prompted to create a username and password. Now, the username can be whatever you want. Now, here's the catch. It will be case sensitive. So if you type in capital letters, it's going to require that from this day forward. Same thing with the password. The password must be at least 6 characters long and must have at least 1 number. Unlike MLS, and actually MLS now with their with their passwords are case sensitive. You can make it the same if you choose. I don't recommend that if you're talking about cybersecurity. And what I also don't recommend, do not let your web browser remember any of your username and passwords. Because when I hack into your computer, everything's available. And unfortunately, nowadays, computer hackers love looking at your cookies and everything that your web browser remembers. So if you're doing online banking, please do not ever have the web browser remember your passwords.
But the case,
Even face recognition. Nowadays with AI, I can create a 3D generated image of you, even on your own computer, if I break into it, from all the pictures that you take of yourself. Not that you're taking a lot of pictures of yourself, but you know what I mean.
once you get used to it, you're comfortable, you're not.
Create a password list. And then security lock it. So you keep it electronically like an Excel spreadsheet, encrypt it. Basic password 101. If you have a handwritten password list, keep it 5. Problem is when we're not in front of our computers, we get all of a sudden start to scratch our heads. What's my password? Okay. So be mindful of that. Now, once you do that, it will say, congratulations, do you agree to our terms of usage? You're going to say, yes, I agree to your terms of usage to use it responsibly. And then it's going to give you a list of items that you can access. The topmost one will say Zipforms Online or Zipforms Plus, access now. Now, once you do that, from this day forward, anytime you log into their system, it will then take you to a screen. And I will say that depending on your web browser, this is going to work on Chrome most reliably, by the way. Sometimes you may have to, exit out of your web browser and restart it. Okay. But what should happen is that when you log in and you agree to the terms of usage and you say access Zipforms Online, it should take you to a screen that says, welcome to Lone Wolf Transactions. And then down below at the bottom right corner, you're going to wait for that gray button to turn yellow that says continue to our transactions. Once you click on that, a new window should open up and take you to your transactions. Did it not work for you yet? So you're still on the main website, so
Yeah,
there.
that's what I like.
And access now. And then now you're getting that yellow button and then hit continue. When you hit continue, you now should be taken to your transaction list. Here in your transaction list will give you a list of all your created transactions. If you're brand new and you've never created a transaction before, guess what? This is going to be blank. Has everybody gotten here? Almost. Wait a second. Mike, this is all good review for you, right?
I'm just trying to figure out what's here.
Okay, I'm going to show you all the new stuff today. Young lady there, handwriting everything okay? Good. All right. So, nope, you have to at least fill in your email address. Then anything else required, I think it might have a phone number, but you've already got that in there. Now hit continue. Yes, agree to the terms. Continue. And it probably will ask you, what product do you want? Now, by the way, you're on Safari, so you're probably going to get a lot of glitches. You have Google Chrome. Google Chrome's right there. Yes, sir.
So now I would put my phone number in. When I click on it,
Yeah, you'll have to manually type in your phone.
I was doing that
And then hit tab.
and then just go tab and okay. Thank you.
And then down. Continue. Yes, sir.
I'm just on Ziploc account page.
Yep, so right then it says Zipforms plus login. There you go. And when it does that, not a problem, you just are going to exit out and close out of your browser. So again, that happens periodically. And we're just going to start Chrome. Chrome, because number one, Chrome is a little bit more secure than Microsoft Edge. Number two, you will have very few glitches on Microsoft Chrome, or I'm sorry, Google Chrome versus Microsoft Edge. So it is a little browser bias. Bring in. Gotcha. Now remember, what you're inputting in is a remember my passwords.
Oh, still do that.
Yeah. Just letting you know. All right. So from here, once we get to our transaction list, we're now ready to make our transactions. Now, I know you said, young lady, that you had made at least 5 transactions for your leases. Good job. Has anybody else made a transaction before? I know Mike, you probably have at least once or twice, right? All right. So how do we make a transaction in Zipforms? Very easy. By the time we get ready to meet with our clients. They want to write up offers. They want to make leases. We want to get our listings. How do we prepare that? Very easy. All we're going to do to make a transaction, come over here towards the top left side where it says new and click. When we click on new, we're going to be now asked, what type of transaction would we like to create today? Are we creating a new listing for a seller to sell their property? Whether it's residential, commercial, whatever. Are we going to create a new purchase offer for someone to buy a piece of property? Are we going to create a new lease for a tenant to lease out a property? Or are we going to create a new lease listing for a housing provider to list their property to a potential tenant? So, anybody here working with clients right now? Good. Majority of your clients are probably what? Brand new. You haven't gotten a client yet. So, let's say a majority of people right now are getting buyers who want to buy a property. So, today what we're going to do, we're going to make a new purchase offer. Now, when I click on new purchase offer, screen's going to open up. We're going to name the transaction. Now, the beautiful thing about naming a transaction, we can name it whatever we want. We can name it the address. We can name it the client's name. We can name it a combination of the two. Whatever is going to be easiest for you to remember who you're representing for which property. Now, here's a default. Some agents who are representing sellers will name it just the property address. Why? Because most sellers only have one property to list.
Product forms your product.
When it comes to buying representation, you might want to name it a combination of the client's name and the property address. Why? Because sometimes buyers are going to be making multiple offers on multiple different properties. That way you can differentiate between what properties are writing up offers on. So in this case, maybe I'm going to representing this buyer. I'm going to put in my client, Bob Smith, or 123 Main Street in Laguna Hills, California. Okay. Now, I don't have to go that detailed on the naming of the transaction. As a matter of fact, I can probably just go Main Street. Now, there is a new feature here that was added in about March of this year, and that is the property address section here. Prior to February or March of this year, this did not exist, this portion. Now, what's nice about this is that if I type in the property address section here, this will automatically fill in the property address on a contract. So I'm automatically having some of the system automate our contract. So in this case, we're going to type in our address, 123 Main. Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
is that, sorry to interrupt, is that also available on other forms? These?
Yeah.
It's not just. on
Yeah.
this.
Any address I type in here will fill in on any and all contracts that I add to this transaction. So if this was a lease, if this was a,
Would have the same feeling.
it would have the same field here. Yes, ma'am.
So the reason for putting this part of the address is for.
I don't have to write it on the contract. I've already written it.
No, but next to the name.
Oh,
That's because it
because
might have
if
multiple-
Bob makes another offer on 2552 La Paz Road, and then another offer on 356 Star Wars Way, and at least I make separate transactions to be able to keep track of the progress of each one, because maybe he signed the offer for this address, but hasn't signed the offer on the other address yet. Or maybe we've got two offers going, and at least this point, I'm getting disclosures from one, but not the other one yet. It's just an easy way of being able to organize my transactional life. Now, if this was just the one seller, I'm just going to have the property address, because now all of a sudden I've got one thing coming in, right? Even multiple offers I can put into here to keep track of from other agents. Okay. Now, here, after I put in property address, the category of the type of transaction, residential, industrial, farm, ranch, what have you. Maybe in this case, a majority of us are dealing with residential. And now all I need to do at this point is come all the way down to the bottom and click save. Once I click save, I have now officially made the transaction. So really, this step should only take you less than a minute and a half to do. Name it, address, property type, save. Now I'm taken to the summary screen here of the transaction. Now, if you're needing to get things done right away, as we all know, right, Mike? I need to have the offer written up in 30 minutes or less. I got to add contracts. How do I add contracts to a transaction? Over here towards the right-hand side, there's a big giant blue button that says All Forms. When I click on the All Forms button here, I'm now defaulted into the California Association of Realtors library, where I can now access more than 425 or 495 plus CAR forms to buy, sell, lease properties in the state of California. To add a form to a transaction from this list, all I need to do, go up and down that list, find the form I need, click on it, and now it adds it over here to the left-hand side. So now, what's going to be fun here? How many of you want to go up and down this entire list to find what? Maybe one or two forms. Not everybody, right? Good.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is it smart enough to know that it's what the type of transaction is, only to display the forms that are.
Unfortunately, that's not the way, right? Because even though this might be a purchase, I might need access to probate contracts, I might need access to trust or other forms outside of some core set. Right? So that's why, now, can I break it down here from all forms to other things like commercial disclosures? I can do that as well. So that form type. So here, the listing side, the purchase side, we can break it down to that if you want. But to find forms very quickly and easily, underneath the forms library, we've got a bar here that says search for name or description. So as an example, if I type in the forms number like RPA, which stands for the Residential Purchase Agreement, now my forms list automatically sorts to give me every form that has either RPA as either the number of the form or part of the title of the form. Here I can find it, click on it, add it to the transaction. If I don't know the number of the form, but I know part of the name of the form, like disclosure. Now the forms list sorts to give me every form that has the word disclosure as part of the title. Okay. And again, find it, click on it, add it. Maybe I've got that other form here that if you've been keeping up on current events about your real estate industry, the buyer broker agreement. Has anybody heard that term? It's called the buyer representation, buyer representative, buyer agent compensation or brokerage compensation form, basically BRBC. So the buyer representation broker compensation agreement. We got to make sure we do that form first and foremost before we do any work. Here, find the form, click on it, add it. Okay. Now, once you're done going through this entire list, finding all the forms you need or that your broker requires for their transactions, now we need to edit the forms. All we now need to do is come over here to the left-hand side, click on the form once, click on it twice, and then we can open it up in the new forms editor to edit the form. That's how quick and easy it is. If you do nothing else, this should take you less than 6 minutes to do. Now we just got to fill out the terms. Any questions on that? Okay.
So I lost you after you added all those documents.
After I added in all those documents, all I then did was click on the form. And in your case, young lady, because you are brand new, and if I have anybody here who's been brand new, say, in the past couple of months, then only the new forms editor will open up. Yep, and then the editor will open up and you can begin to edit the terms of the contract. Okay. Now,
Question,
yes,
does the form has all the information? Site address, I mean, you haven't provided anything,
not yet.
no, okay,
We haven't gone over those features yet.
okay.
So you
Why
have to
don't
type in the terms of the contract, right? Which you can do.
But wouldn't you want to add those first, or as soon as you?
That depends on you. If I needed it, depends on the individual, right? If I needed things done quickly and efficiently, right? I've got 30 minutes to submit my offer. I'm gonna create the transaction, I'm gonna add the form, and then I'm gonna type in all the contract stuff, right? If you did nothing but that, you could do that. It's all the extra bells and whistles that we're gonna touch on. Okay? That's where we're gonna be a little bit more efficient or become more efficient. Yes, ma'am.
I have lost the page and I don't know how to get back to it on here.
Which-
Going by where you're at.
Oh, all I did was, I see. So you went back to the main website. Right. I don't know why you got two windows open. Okay. No, that's good. I'll do this. Close out the one window. Get back.
It's a right click.
Oh, that's a right click.
Yeah.
You're a lefty, just like me.
Yeah, well, I got this mouse. I thought it would be easier. But. So I got to there.
And we're going to take it back to your transaction. Okay, good. So this is where we're at. Now, by the way, I want everybody to at least create a test transaction. Call it test. That way you can play with a lot of the bells and whistles that we're going to go over today. Okay? Because you can create as many transactions as you want at no cost to you. So the more we play with things, the better we can practice with things, the more efficient we can become with the program at the time that we do need it. Okay. Now, one of the things that we're going to go over here is that I want information on my contracts quickly and easily. And a majority of you raised your hands because you're working with buyers right now, right? And if you're working with buyers, you probably have been in the MLS and you've shown them properties, right? Now, what's one of the things that's on a listing in the MLS? The MLS number, right? What's the MLS number have? Address, information about the agent, and some other information about the property, right? Wouldn't that be great to be able to have it written on a contract right away? Good. So we're going to use a tool here when we're creating a transaction for a buyer. Okay. Called MLS Connect. So when we're making a transaction, there's a tool here before I write in the property address information called MLS Connect. And now what MLS Connect allows us to do is import MLS listing data directly onto our contracts. So it's going to be a quick and easy, efficient way of putting in some information on a contract. How we are going to do that is simply click on where it says MLS Connect. We're now going to see that we're defaulted into the CRMLS system to reference the information. We're going to look for a property and we're going to now simply type in the MLS listing number. And when it comes to the MLS listing number, any letters in that listing number need to be capitalized. So in this case, if I type in an MLS listing number from the MLS, and I say, find me that listing, we immediately see here, we've got the address and some information immediately pulled or going to be pulled. Now we can say, use this listing data. Now I'm going to select my property type and hopefully this should have put that information in, which it will. And now I can come down below and hit save. When I do that, yes, ma'am, you had your hand raised? Oh, okay. We're going to see here on the summary screen that now all of a sudden where it says property summary, we have the MLS listing number, we have the lot number, we have the street address, along with some other information about the property. So now when I go to add a contract, like that purchase agreement. Now, all of a sudden, when I see that, I don't know why it didn't show it to me, but okay. And see, even I go through issues. There we go. When I open up this contract, we're going to immediately see here that not only do I have the property address information on this form, but I also have the listing brokerage information on this form. So we see information already populated in from the MLS onto the contract. Now, I won't see seller information. Why? Because the seller's information is not typed in on the listing. But I might have things on here that I normally would not have typed, right? The listing is the same, brokerage, their DRA license numbers, the address, the APN number, the list price, depending on the contract, and some other things. Maybe what the list price includes and excludes if it was typed in on the listing. Anybody like that? So it's a quick and easy way of writing up your contract. Okay.
So you could just go click on the MLS Connect, right?
Yep. And put in the MLS listing number. And then you're going to pull that information. So as you add in contracts, that listing data will be put on the contract. So it's less information we have to type on a contract. We still have to put in other specific things like who pays for what, my client's information, things like that. But it makes our time a lot more efficient. Does that help? Yes.
But you could have created a contract for your clients.
You can.
That would have been also propagated.
Yeah, you could do that too, but then you'd have to pick out which client affects what transaction.
I mean, if you know the specific clients.
Yeah, you could do that.
To create a contract.
You could. There's nothing wrong with that. That's nothing wrong.
Because if you don't do, then you have to key in for every form.
No,
the name of the person,
because once you type it in the first time, you can,
the first form, that would remember to.
it makes the contact in your contact list. Yes. All right. So, let's see here. So let's go over the new version. Now, by the way, if at any given time, say you create a transaction and you go, you know what, I need to speak to somebody later, or hey, I need to go to the bathroom or lunch or dinner or whatever, right? You have to log out of your system. But then how do I get back into the contracts again? I've added them, I typed in some terms, or I haven't even typed in anything yet, but hey, I got an emergency, I need to go or whatever. How do I get back to where I was at? Because you've made the transaction, all you're going to do is simply click on the transaction in your transaction list. From here, when it opens up, oops, you're going to see here on a dark gray bar here that we're defaulted into the summary. To get to the documents that we've added to edit the contracts, we're going to come over here on this dark gray bar and click on documents. When we click on documents, here will be all the forms. Now, all you need to do is simply click on the form, and now we're going to edit the form. Now, Mike, I know you're a seasoned agent here. You've been in the MLS, or you've been a member for a long time. So you're getting this choice, correct? Now, if you've been in, how many of you are super brand new, like new this year? Everybody. So you're the only exception to this rule. You all will not see this option. But us veterans receive this option because we can edit the form in the old edition. This old edition will be going away. I was hoping that it was going to go away April of this year, but they delayed that.
So if it goes away, it would be
In this
on that
new
side.
edition. So starting today, you're only going to want to use the new edition. Okay. You're not going to see all the bells and whistles, but you're going to see things a lot more efficient. So first thing that we're going to see here. Because I clicked on the form, we see that we have the form that we clicked on in our workspace. What's nice about the workspace is that you can work on different contracts at different points of time. So you can add all the forms to the transaction and all the documents, but then work on them in different workspaces. Now, honestly, I don't see anybody creating multiple workspaces. Honestly.
What do you mean workspace?
So I work on a core set of forms on this date, then I create a new workspace on a different date, working on a different set of forms. So that means the workspace is what I'm actively working on and what I'm actively doing on a particular date and time if I wanted to. Most of us will probably never ever have more than just one workspace. Okay. Now, before I go over this, I want to bring your attention over here to the right-hand side. Now, over here on the right-hand side, because we accessed a form, we're defaulting to the forms area to begin to work on the form. But before we do that, let's first add in a party or parties. How we do that is simply go and click where it says parties. From here, you're going to notice that it's got my information defaulted here. Why? Because I'm the agent. I logged into my Zipforms, and then because I made a transaction for a purchase, it's defaulted me as the selling agent and broker on the buyer side. If this was a listing transaction, it would say listing agent, listing brokerage. Automatic. So now I need to add my clients to this transaction. How I do that? You click on that little blue button there that says add. And from here, we're going to add a new party. Now, Mike, when we hit add a new party, this will add it to the contact list that we can reference at a later date for other transactions if needed. But very simple, what we're going to do, we choose the role. Well, notice here that it defaults to buyer one first. And now all we need to do is type in the client's first name, last name, and just their email address. And hit save. That's all you need to do to add a party to a transaction. First name, last name, email address. Why is it important to know someone's first name and last name, young lady? For the contract, right? Got to know their first name and last name. That's number one. But number two, relationship. Got to know someone's first name and last name for this important relationship, right? Anybody here ever been in a relationship and not know that person that you were dating's name for 6 to 8 months? We all called them honey, pumpkin, sweetie pie. And when we found out their name, we went, oh, I didn't know that was your name. And you accidentally let that out. Were you in a relationship that much longer? Probably not, right? Anybody here ever had that problem? Good. I guess I'm the only person. Right? Now, what happens if Mr. Smith has a Mrs. Smith or a spouse? We need to add them to the contract, right? How we add them to the contract? We're going to come over here, click on add a new party. Now this time we're going to select the role. And when we do that, we're going to see a whole list of people that we can add to this transaction. We can add in a second buyer, a third buyer, a fourth buyer, seller 1, seller 2, seller 3, seller 4. We can add in the agent's brokerages. We can add in appraisal companies, title companies, attorneys, anybody that we can add to this transaction. Doesn't mean that they're going to be added necessarily to the contract, but we can add in all the necessary parties that need to be involved in this transaction. We're not limited. Now, here we can select buyer 2. Put in Bob's spouse's first name, last name, and their email address. Whoops. And then hit save. So here, I'm just going to add in all the parties that I need to represent accordingly to this transaction or who are involved. Title, escrow, lenders, if you want. It's a choice.
Some of them will show
Some of them,
the pest control.
it will, yep. Now, next, after we add in the parties, the forms. Now here under the forms area, we are defaulted to what forms we previously added from the all forms button, but in case, for whatever reason, you need to add in other documents or other forms, how do we do that? Here in the top middle, right side, underneath where it says workspace, there's the add button here. Now, when we click on the add button here, we're actually going to be given several choices, one of which says suggested. Now, suggested is taking place of a particular feature in Zipforms called Forms Advisor. What Forms Advisor used to do is allow you to answer a set of questions, and based on your answers, most of which used to be yes and no answers, compile a list of forms that would be required by CAR Legal for that transaction. Now, unfortunately, they've modified that tool in this new version called Suggested. Now, Suggested kicks off after you've added in a couple of forms and some terms on a contract. Automatically. It will then start to suggest other forms that you might need based on your terms. It is a good choice. Okay, so it's going to give that to you. But if you have no forms here, say as an example, I need to add in other contracts. I can go to the second option here, Forms Library. And from here, like the All Forms area, I'm defaulted to the CAR California Association of Realtors library, where I can access, more than 495 plus forms. Now, here's the kicker though. To add a form from this list, unlike the previous method of the all forms where I just clicked on the form and it added it, I have to literally, in order to select this form, click on the add button to add it officially. But I can simply still search for the form, disclosure. It will then sort the forms, find what I need, click the add button to add the form. Now, just like with the all forms button, you are not limited to just the CAR California Association of Realtors library. Because you're a CAR member, and I stress this, that more than 495 plus forms and documents. If you click on the down arrow next to the forms library, you also have access to various other libraries to grab other documents and forms from. Like the CAR sample letters. The CAR sample letters are legal letters that the CAR attorneys have created for you that you can use in a transaction. So, tenant failure to pay, maybe it's a notice to vacate or what have you. Instead of paying an attorney to write up a letter for you, you can very simply find that letter, add it to the transaction. And now if we click on that letter just to see what it looks like, page 1 of the letter tells you how this letter is to be used, but page 2, everything in that letter is already written here. All you got to do is fill in the blanks. The CAR attorneys have already put these letters together for you. So save yourself $500 per attorney, per letter. Okay. Some other cool libraries that I think you'll use also a lot, or that you might use. The California EPUBs library. EPUB stands for Electronic Publications. We go here, the first 6 is the combined hazard booklet. So it's got the earthquake guide, the lead-based paint, the HERS energy manual, as well as the signature page, all right here electronically. You do not have to spend $3 or $4 to buy the booklet to give to the client for them to sign off. Here it is as a PDF document or documents that you can now add to the transaction and email off to your client. Very, very cool. And these are automatically up to date. So you bought a book 5 years ago, things have changed, might have been updated. You're going to access the latest and greatest updated forms and documents. Okay? You got it? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Upload. Upload allows me to upload foreign documents to the transaction. What I mean by foreign documents, PDF files. There will be times where I get signed documents from the other agent or other documents from my client. What am I going to do with those? Sure, they emailed them to me. Sure, I downloaded them on the computer, but wouldn't it be great to upload them as part of the transaction? The answer is yes. How do we do that? We simply go to where it says upload. When we go to upload, here under the add forms or add plus under the forms area, what I can now do is either browse my computer for those documents, or even better yet, maybe I have those documents downloaded to my computer. And from here, all I need to do is simply, whoop, all I need to do is simply, how do I do this? There we go. Get back to that. Find the form, click and hold, drag it over to that little window, let go, and now I've just officially uploaded that PDF file to the transaction. Now, what's nice about this is that there's the PDF file, but I cannot edit it necessarily. But I get the offer from the other agent, or I get disclosures from the listing side. I can now take those disclosures and upload the PDF documents as part of my transaction. Which, by the way, if I upload those PDF files here, I can also get them digitally signed. I just have to manually place or indicate to the client where they need to sign an initial on that, which is awesome.
But you could edit.
I cannot technically edit. There is a tools section to allow me some editing, but I don't want to necessarily do that. And like any PDF file, it records any modifications to it, which is one of the beautiful things about a PDF file. So if you're really good at computers, you can literally decode it and see when that document was edited.
So this would be an attachment.
This could be my client's financial documents. This could be my client's, proof of funds, or even better yet, the listing agent's documents. They have 48 mandatory disclosures they need to give to me. Well, they're emailing them to me. Now I'm going to take them, download them from my email, and then upload them as part of the transaction. That way I can send them out for digital signatures and now have everything all in one place. Does that make sense? Okay. So we got three things that we can do to add. We have the suggested forms. We can choose a form or upload documents. By the way, you're not limited to just PDF files. I can upload Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and JPEG files as well.
So what is the significance of the cover sheet? Since you already had.
Don't worry about the cover sheet. It's an extra form that you don't necessarily need, but it's got some other things on there that hopefully what I'm going to show you next is going to be easier. Okay. Now, by the way, here under the forms area, next to that add button, we can send documents out for the e-signature process, either by clicking on the pencil here or clicking on the blue button that says prepare signing. We'll touch on that in a minute. We can email these documents out to a client. We can download documents. We can print files, or we can trash files out of the transaction. Yes, ma'am.
What if you broker this, put all the templates that they want to use in there? How do you open them up to edit them?
So you're going to then apply a template to a transaction, which we'll touch on in just a few minutes.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you're using a broker edition of Zipforms, like you're a Berkshire Hathaway agent.
I'm not sure. She just put all the templates in there.
Okay. All right. So you probably have a list of templates pre-created for you for your office.
Right.
Okay. So you're accessing what they call the broker edition. So you got an account username from your broker.
She took my password.
Oh, and created something for you. Okay, that's fine. Some brokers are nice to do that. Others, here's a list of forms that you need for every transaction, but we'll go over how to make a template here in just a few minutes. Okay. Now, by the way, over here towards that left side, if there is a form that's editable, like in this case, the RPA, we can come over here to the left and begin to edit the terms of the contract. We can type in the client's information. We can type in the other information. We can type in other specific things that are needed. Now, to help this a little bit more efficiently, back over here to the left, underneath the forms choice, we got the listing information. Here, the listing information, we can type in some listing data. Address, zip code, list date, list price, listing side commission. By the way, the listing side commission or the buying side commission are in dollars. Even though the contract can have either dollars or percentage, here in this new version right now, it only allows for dollar amounts. Okay. We have an expiration date, which most of us representing buyers will never ever know the listing expiration date. Okay. Some of the lease terms, the property includes, excludes, anything we type here under the listing info section will also get typed in on the form. Now, speaking of which, on the listing side, we also have the offer side. So, offer price. Here, let me get down to that section of the contract so you can see this actually fill in. So if I put in a list price, one more zero, there we go. And I hit tab, you should see that the list price automatically filled in on the contract. Just like my closing date. Geez, we're going to close January 25th, and we want to take possession on January 27th, and we have a deposit of $50. And we're making today the offer date and the expiration of that offer. So here we can put in that information under the offer info. You'll notice here, as I'm filling in this information, it does fill it in on the contract. Now, even though the purchase agreement in this case has a plethora of other information, at least I can put in some generic information that would affect every contract that I add to this transaction. Anybody like that? Good. All right. Next tool here, clauses. I love clauses. Clauses are basically verbiage that you might use periodically or often, depending on the contract. But instead of having to remember what it is that you said or you're supposed to say, like maybe your broker has advised you or your risk management team advised you, if you ever use this form, you should always say this on that form. Well, how many of you have a great memory and remember everything? Exactly. Just like me. Right? Make that verbiage into a clause. That way, if at any given time you come across that form, that scenario, you can apply that verbiage directly into the contract. So as an example, to make a clause, we're going to go to where it says clauses. And from here, we're going to create a clause. From here, we're going to title it. So maybe we title it, oh, I don't know, buyer's choice. And then we're going to write under the description what that clause is supposed to say. Buyer's choice of escrow services, as an example. And then we can just hit save. So now all of a sudden we have a clause. So what I can do here is I can make as many clauses for as many different scenarios as I want. Maybe one for the listing counter. And in this one, seller counters with highest and best offer. Buyer to cook every third Sunday of the month for sellers for 1 year after close of escrow. Buyer to give firstborn at COE +3, whatever you need, right? Save it. Save what you need. Now, when it comes time to add that clause to a contract, you have the contract up, depends on whatever the contract is. You find the area where you need to add the clause. So here, maybe we got under other terms, we click on that area where we can type in text. Now, before I type in text on that particular area of that particular form or whatever, there's a button here that says add a clause. When I click on add a clause, it's going to now give me a list of all of my clauses that I've created. Now, all I need to do is simply find the clause that I need, click on it, insert it, and now we've inserted the text. So I can add in that verbiage quickly and easily. So if it was a probate or a trust sale or whatever, and certain forms that you might not need or that you use all that often, your broker during their many classes on telling you what to do and what to write on a contract, I now have that as a clause. So when I need that form, I now can add in that necessary verbiage quickly and easily without having to go through 1,000 transactions to find out one form in that one transaction and try to remember what I said. It's a quick and easy way of doing that. Anybody like that? By the way, you can add multiple clauses to one line. All I need to do, click back in that line, go back to add a clause and find another clause that I might need, insert it. And it inserts that text automatically at that point. So I can add as much verbiage, combine several things together, whatever we need. Anybody like that? Good.
Go back and edit the.
And I can even add in anything else too to that line of text. I can even go back under my clauses, edit that one particular clause and add in things. Maybe I misspelled something. Maybe things have changed via the laws and now I got to reword it. We can do that. It's way better than keeping a whole stack of book or a book of all the available clauses. I had one agent in one office that literally pulled out 3 pads of paper and said, here's a list of all my clauses. I showed him this. He's like, let me just write up everything that I need. Super happy. Got rid of all of his paper. Okay. All right. By the way, are there any questions so far? Anybody liking this? Good. All right. So this is how any questions on creating a transaction, adding forms, or adding any of this stuff. So have I overwhelmed everybody? Yeah, I have. I'm sorry. This is why we're recording. I apologize for that. All right. Next thing that we're going to go over. Templates. What is a template? A template is basically a great and easy way of putting together or pulling together a core set of forms that you might need for every type of transaction. You type in some generic terms, and that way, when you apply it to a transaction, it saves you time and effort. Typically, a template can save you anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes per transaction. Okay? Now, how we create a template, very simple. Next to where it says transactions at the very top, there's a choice here that says templates. When I click on templates, I'm now going to click on the choice that says forms and checklists. From here, this will now give me, just like my transaction list, every template that I've ever created. Well, if you're brand new to this, guess what? You got no templates. So how do we make a template? Just like making a transaction, we're going to come over here to the left-hand side, click on new. Now we get to choose what type of template we're going to create. Listing template, a purchase template, a lease template for a tenant, or a lease tenant, or a lease template for a housing provider. Maybe today, those of you representing a ton of buyers, we're going to make a purchase template for you. So here we're going to click on purchase. Now, at this point, you're going to notice this be a little bit different than a transaction. Why? Because a template is going to be client property generic. We're not going to tie it to a particular address. We're not going to tie it to a particular client. Because this is what we're going to do for 90% of this type of client. So if we're creating a purchase template, maybe you're going to name it something generic like buyer, purchase, standard sale purchase. Maybe we have a template for a short sale purchase or REO purchase or probate purchase. If we're creating a listing template, maybe you call it listing, maybe you call it seller, maybe you call it standard sale, short sale, REO sale, probate sale, whatever. Okay, something that's going to be easily identified for you. So in this case, maybe we are going to name it buyer template. Here, we're going to select the category, residential, purchase, whatever. From here, under auto apply, we are going to leave it at do not automatically apply. Why? Because we want to be in control over what templates get applied to what transactions, right? We choose the first choice here, automatically apply this template to any purchase residential transaction. Well, that's great, but what happens if that new purchase transaction that we create is for a probate sale? Do I want my standard sale template or my standard purchase template to be applied to that probate purchase? Probably not. There's different forms, different contracts. The third choice here, automatically apply this template to any and all my transactions. Well, what happens if I'm doing a listing appointment? Do I want my purchase template to be applied to a listing transaction? Probably not.
So why do you have those options?
Because there are some people that only, there are some people's businesses that will only represent one side of the transaction or only one type of transaction. So they just want to make their lives a lot easier. I would say a majority of us love working with any and all clients. We are not just one client heavy, right? We like to have a huge circle in our business. We don't go in just one straight line, right? There's not one way of doing it. That's why I say leave it at do not automatically apply. Now from here, we're going to hit save. Now when we hit save, we're now taken to this area here where we can now add in our forms. So this is where your broker is going to come in. Young lady, you had your broker put together a core set of forms for you. Others of you may work at other brokerages that aren't that friendly, right? But maybe they've given you a list of every form required for a particular type of transaction. What you're going to now do is you're going to take that list and you're going to come over to where it says all forms. And you're now going to click on that all forms button and now find those forms. So the RBC, the RPA, whatever you need. Now, I would say use this for the core set of forms. How many forms do you really need to get a transaction started? Probably what, 2, right? Like for a purchase, you probably just need at least the purchase contract and the buyer representation contract. For those of you who don't know, the purchase agreement has at least 6 other forms embedded into it. It's got the disclosure regarding agency relationship, the possible representation more than one buyer or seller, wire fraud, fair housing, the purchase agreement, and the buyer's advisor. So at least, and the CCPA. So 7 forms. So it's got a core set of forms built into it. We're just adding in another 1 or 2. Listing agreement side, you don't need to necessarily have the listing agreement on top of every other disclosure because that you're not guaranteed to get the listing right away. Maybe you just have your listing template with 1 or 2 forms, the main contract and maybe another form or 2, depending on what your broker requires to get it started. Now, once you're done adding in those forms from your forms list, what you're now going to do, I love this, is you're now going to click on the form and you're going to type in your generic terms. Now, what are your generic terms? Anybody? What's something that's never ever going to change on a form? Or very rarely? There you go, your own name. Hopefully, anybody here changing their names? No? Anybody here changing their names a lot? No? Good. I know that trouble girl in the back, she probably does, right, young lady? So
Get married and change.
So maybe you type in some generic terms. I add the party, myself as the selling agent, or myself as the listing agent, my name of my company, my DRA license number. That's not going to change. Maybe I go through the form and add in some generic terms, what I negotiate for 90% of my clients. Right? I'm not going to put in escrow dates. I'm not going to put in closing dates, but I will put in who pays for what. How many days escrow do I generally try to negotiate for? 15, 30, 45 day escrows? Right? Who pays for what? Buyer or seller? Sometimes both, depending on the situation. So maybe in this case, you know what? Most of my clients, they all like to, for the offer, put in a deposit of, I don't know, $50,000. And I've got a COE of number of days. You know what? I always try to shoot for 45 days. And then, of course, again, maybe the loan appraisal, I do 21 and the loan 21. And then again, here, stove, refrigerator, dryer, dishwasher. And then, of course, both. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through these forms, putting in what I generically negotiate for 90% of my clients. Now, I would say you're going to have at least 5 different templates, at least. One for the listing side, one for the buying side, one for a tenant, one for a land housing provider, and then maybe one for disclosures for the selling side. At least 5 templates. Yes, ma'am.
So once you edit that, does it automatically save?
It's automatically going to be saved here. So when I can click on the save button if I want to, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when I back out, it'll ask me, do you want to save this? I'm just going to say yes. Now, once I'm done doing that, I'm now ready to apply a template to a transaction. So how do I do this? And this is where you are now excited about, right? So now when I go to make this transaction for the buying side, and I'm naming it, right? Maybe I even do that MLS Connect if I wanted to again here. OC 23223182. There we go. Find the property. Use that listing data. Now, when I come down below under the category, there is a choice here that now says select a template. So once you make at least one template, you now have a choice here that says select a template. When I click on the down arrow, come on in, young lady. That's okay. When I click on that, I'm now going to find the template that I need. When I select that template, and now I hit save, all those forms, all those generic terms are now automatically applied to this transaction. So now when I go to my documents area, I see the forms already automatically there. So if you notice, I didn't have to go to all forms. Find the form, add the form. When I open up the form now, and I begin to edit this form, I'm going to automatically see here terms already pre-written up. And let me get down to that page 1. And did I apply the wrong template? No, that's the disclosure. There we go. Oh, because I selected that one. I was wondering. Okay, so when I get down to that purchase agreement, now I'm going to type in the specifics, client name, address, or maybe some of my generic terms change. Like instead of a 45-day escrow, this client now only wants a 15-day escrow. Right? This client doesn't want to give $50,000. They need to give $500,000. Here I can quickly and easily change my terms. What we don't need to do is now add everything from scratch. Some of my terms changed. Not a big deal, easy fix. Now I can do what I need to do. It's quickly and efficient, right? Again, templates can save us anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes per transaction. So in this case, Mike and I go out and see homes. He wants to make 6 offers on properties today, on the 6 properties that we saw. 15 to 20 minutes per transaction now gives me what? 120 minutes to my life. Now I can do what? Eat, sleep, shower, shave, or more importantly, because I'm a real estate machine, work on important marketing or other details about my other transactions. The whole idea behind that template is to help free up our time because as we all know, our time is our money and our money is our time. How can we quickly and efficiently manage our time? Anybody like this? Now, if at any given time you need to update forms in your template, go back into your templates, open up that template, take out the old form, add in the new form. Usually with newer forms, because CAR updates their forms twice a year, every June, every December. That will require you to do some maintenance. I want to say this past June, there were 84 or 89 contracts updated. Excuse me, most of which were leases. This December, I think near the end of December, I think they're looking at 15 forms and adding in like 3 or 4.
So when they change the forms, what do I have to do? Go back to the templates.
Excuse me, in the forms library, you don't have to do anything. You're always accessing the latest and greatest form. But
My template. I'm sorry.
to modify the template, very simply, you're going to get back into your template list. So you're going to go to templates, go to your forms and checklists, and from here, you're going to click on the template that needs to be modified. And now you're going to find the form, and you're going to be able to either delete out the other form, and let me find a form in here that I can actually
You have
delete
to
out.
redo the entire-
No, you don't have to redo the entire thing, but you find the one form. Say the buyer broker agreement, BRBC, got updated. Okay, I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to select it, delete it, that one form. And then I'm going to go back under my all forms, find the new one, and add it. And then I will go in there and update it if needed. Because usually newer forms or updated forms have different terms added in, things get changed around. So I will need to do some of that.
All the verbiage that I added to the previous template.
Well,
So
it
I'm
depends.
basically,
If I added in verbiage on this contract, when a contract gets modified, that verbiage might not be applicable anymore. So when I get rid of it, any verbiage on there is gone.
So basically you're recreating a brand new template.
No. Did I take out the purchase agreement?
Yeah.
No, I took out the one form, BRBC.
Okay, well, whatever has been changed, you have to.
Well, if I've got my name on the purchase agreement, guess what? My name's gonna be on the BRBC. Right? But guess what? What happens to that BRBC had 3 other things that were added to that? Well, I'm gonna go in there and need to change it anyway. I'm not going to go willy-nilly blind and not read the contract, right? Anybody here not reading contracts? Good. Learn your contracts. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you get a list of all the updated contracts?
Back at CAR.org's website. So back at CAR.org, here, what you're going to do is you're going to go to where it says at the top, Transaction Center, and click. From here, you're going to go and choose the choice that says Standard Forms. Under Standard Forms, this may require you to re-log back into their website, because that happens. You're going to scroll down and you're going to click on where it says Form Revisions and New Form Releases. From here, this will now give you a list of things that are going to be updated. In this case, we see December of 2023, a quick summary. When we click on that, we now get to see that there is one brand new form, this BHIA, and that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, a lot of forms here that are being revised. If I wanted to see what those are, I can very simply click on that list. And now I can open up that form. So in this case, hopefully I don't see a purchase agreement. Oh, I do see the listing agreement though, the LRA. That's the lease rental agreement. And what I should see here in this draft, anything that's being modified on this form or has been modified will be in red.
Oh, I have a question.
But it at least gives me an idea. Oh, there's a list of forms here. Now I can go and take that list, go back into my templates, and at the time that they say this form release is supposed to go out, in this case, December 27th, usually, I can then go in on, let's say, the 28th, 29th, and update my templates.
How do I print the blind form?
Can't.
I know I can't.
Legally, I can't tell you how to do it. Why? Copyright. Copyright restrictions by CAR say that you must have at least a property address on the form before it's allowed to be printed. So, know what property address you're going to at a listing appointment, put that address down. Purchase a transaction that's a little bit more difficult, but you know what? Maybe you put 1 or 2 addresses, or you put 1 address down on one of the properties that you're about to show, print it out, maybe print a couple of copies, and then you scratch through the address and rewrite it up. That way you can sit down with somebody. Or even better yet, you have a tablet device. I know you do. Access Zipforms on your tablet. Take them to lunch, take them for coffee, whatever. And write up the terms of the contract right then and there. Beautiful thing about something like that, let's go over the terms of the contract. By the way, follow it up with an email. Per our discussion today, these are the questions you have about the contract. Per our discussion today, have everything in writing. There should be no chance that they do not remember your conversation. I know a lot of people are scared of putting things in writing, but trust me, your industry, you are at high risk of being sued. As a matter of fact, real estate agents are the highest sued profession, above and beyond lawyers and doctors. I think your lawsuit right now, your percentage is at 27% versus a lawyer at 18%. The lawyers aren't getting sued as much as you are. So protect yourself. Reiterate, go over your contracts, know what you're talking about. By the way, how many of you know your forms? Not everybody. Okay, let me show you a cheat. Even though we have classes here at the board at least once a month or at least once a quarter, going over the purchase agreement, the listing agreement, and of course the disclosures. You still need details about what those forms mean because you need to sit down with the client and go over those forms. You got to make sure that they read and understand every aspect of that form. Well, how do you do that if you don't know the contract yourself? And heaven forbid in your busy life that you forget to come to a class or you can't make it to a class. Back here at CAR.org's website, there is a tool under the Transaction Center called Forms Advisor and Forms Tutor. Now, the tool that we're going to use here, Forms Advisor, Forms Tutor at the bottom, and I don't know why it didn't let me scroll down. We're going to use the Forms Tutor. Now, what Forms Tutor allows us to do is access an educational platform for us to learn our forms. Now, what's cool about this is that this will not, unfortunately, give me every form, but it will give me the 37 most commonly used forms. Here, what I can do, find the form that I want or I need to learn about. In this case, maybe the purchase agreement, the RPA. Now, when I do that, we see here that the purchase agreement has been broken down into 4 simple parts. Pages 1 through 4, pages 5 through 8, 9 through 12, 13 through 16. When I click on, say, as an example, pages 1 through 4, the purchase agreement is going to open up. And it looks pretty similar to what I see in Zipforms, except that I see these weird little blue dots throughout the entire form. Now, depending on the form, every page, every line, every paragraph. And what's neat about this is that if I click on a blue dot, I get a now written explanation of what that line means or what that page means, whatever. Now, how many of you love to read? 3 people out of 10. Excellent. So, in those cases, when I open up this blue box in the top left corner, we have a play button. If I click on the play button,
Paragraph 3B, close of escrow.
I now hear a audio explanation read to me line by line.
Any real problem. Or the date of delivery of the document. Evidence.
So if I can't make it to a class once a month here, I can now learn my forms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 382 days a year.
Ladies to the client.
You can't, because this is behind your password protected access. Not to mention, it is not a CAR's stance to explain to your client what that form means legally. That is on your shoulders. That's why this is a member-only benefit. So do not attempt.
No, I meant when you're sitting with the client.
If you sit down with the client and you go over this, they're gonna still ask you, so what does that all mean? And if you go, oh, why am I using it?
I'm just kidding.
I know you may be kidding, but trust me, I've been in the business. You and I have been in business long enough. There are agents that will literally say exactly what I just said. I don't know what that means. Then why are you having me sign this? Because you're supposed to. I literally had an agent in here last year that just went, I just signed for my clients. Right in front of a broker who happened to be their broker. Needless to say, they had a nice little discussion outside that door in the back right after class. I said, you're not supposed to be doing it, but they want me to do it. That's great that they want you to rob a bank. Are you willing to rob a bank? Maybe nowadays, but I don't know.
So how long do you think it takes if you go from top to the bottom? Explaining.
Depends on their client.
Yes.
Depends on your client. Guess what? If I'm saving myself 2 hours putting together the transaction, I'm willing to go over the contracts for 2 hours. Because I want to confidently make sure that my client and my customer service in justifying what I charge them, right? That they understand every aspect and that there is nothing left to question.
It's a time consuming.
It's a time consuming thing. Our contracts are highly detailed, 21 pages. I will say I've seen other state contracts far less than ours. Chicago, I think they're at 5 pages for their purchase agreement. Other states don't protect the buyer. Other states protect the sellers. Texas and North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, most everybody protects the sellers. We are one that try to protect both sides of the party, but when it comes to the purchase agreement, it is very buyer friendly. Yes, ma'am.
So does your broker tell you, or is there a place to go for a list of all the documents and all the disclosures they need for a transaction?
Usually that falls to the broker because each brokerage may require, they'll require like a fourth set of things that are required by the state, but they may require other forms depending on the scenario. But they should be able to give you that list. They should say, this is what I require for my files. Sure. Back here at car.org. So if you go back to the main website, go to where it says Transaction Center. From here, you're going to scroll down to where it says Forms Advisor, Forms Tutor. When you click on that, you're going to scroll down to where it says Forms Tutor, Access Forms Tutor, and then find the form that you need. To see those little blue dots and on that form. And again, it's not going to give you all the forms in Zipforms, but it'll give you the most commonly used ones. The disclosure regarding agency relationship, the buyer broker agreement, the purchase agreement, and they're pretty good about keeping this up to date with the current standing. Okay. I think they pulled down the purchase agreement not too long ago because of the new changes to the laws, and then they just recently re-uploaded it again. Okay. All right. Last thing that we'll go over here. By the way, are there any questions on this? Anybody like any of this?
The tactics we're talking about, I see there is an import function. So we could import.
This allows you to import your contacts from an Excel spreadsheet into Zipform. So if you don't have a contact management system, you could literally use Zipforms as your contact retention.
But could we like import a template we already have in our,
To go to your templates and create it.
oh,
Import will only allow me to upload a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet file, which is for your contacts. Yeah. If you're talking about adding a document, remember, go into the transaction, go to that form area,
oh,
and then
upload.
choose add, upload.
Or does it have access to the MLS?
Through MLS Connect.
Yeah.
It does not have access to the
Fine,
contacts.
that's what I meant. Fine.
No, because that's a separate secured system. So what you can do is take your contacts out of the MLS, export them into a CSV file, and then you could import them into Zipforms. Fun stuff, right? So lots of options. All right. Last thing that we're going to go over today, digitally signing documents. Digitally signing documents is pretty darn easy. You have a choice between two different platforms. You have Authentisign and DocuSign. And what's the difference between the two? DocuSign is a third-party vendor. That third-party vendor for realtors gives you a discount on their service where they can allow you to sign up for free for 30 days, 5 digital signature sessions for that month. Meaning that I can send out one transaction 5 times at no cost, or 5 transactions 1 time that month, or in those 30 days at no cost. After that, for that same 5 sets of signatures, a minimum of $8 a month. If I want unlimited signatures, DocuSign wants to charge you about $240 to $270 per year. Now I know everybody's eyes got really big. Oh my gosh, I just got to pay. I just paid. Be a member, right? This is where Authentisign comes in. Authentisign is a free member benefit included in your Zipforms that allows you to sign unlimited transactions, unlimited amount of documents, unlimited amount of times for $0. So, quick math, $270 out of your pocket or 0.
Is it the same?
Oh.
Last 4 years ago, 5 years? I
No.
don't know.
No,
That's
as a matter of
what I
fact, the
thought.
new
The
Authentisign
name-
is far superior than what digital ink used to.
Okay.
Okay. Matter of fact, Authentisign is, I think, a little bit more superior than DocuSign. And if you're like me, you're on a tight budget, right? Those of you who are brand new going, geez, I just spent X amount of dollars to be a brand new member, $1,700, $1,800 to be a brand new member. And I've just paid my office fees and I've just paid this and I got marketing and all that. When am I going to see the money come in? Let's take advantage of the free stuff where we can win. Because again, if you're like me and a tight budget, your spouse only gives you about $7 a week to go to lunch. 7-Eleven because your friends real quick. Especially with gas prices the way they are. I think they went up 10 cents since yesterday. I think what, September, it was almost $7.30 a gallon. Now we're down at $4.80 a gallon. Still outrageous. But anyway. So now, by the way, in our free service, our free our test transaction, this is what you're going to need to do. At least add in 1 contract. So if you're practicing writing up an offer, put that purchase agreement together, right? That way you can get your broker's opinion. Is this a good offer if I wrote it up this way? Give me some pointers. But you're also going to practice digital signing. You need 2 minimum things on a contract to sign it. A name and an address. So make yourself the signer. Put in your name as the buyer. If it's a listing side transaction, guess what you're going to do? You're going to make yourself the what? Seller. Exactly. Okay. 123 Main Street. Purchase your home, wherever you live, right? Write that up. Because again, when I name that transaction test, I know it's not going to go to a real client. Okay. And again, the more we practice, the more at ease this will be. So how do I set this up? I'm going to go into the transaction. I'm going to make sure my documents and my forms are here, right? I've got at least the bare minimum on here. Address, client's name. We're going to make sure that's on there. Excellent. Those are my terms. So now I'm ready to digitally sign the document. By the way, with AuthentiSign, just like DocuSign, if you're doing DocuSign through Zipforms, 90% of the forms already have the digital areas pre-placed for you. So we're talking about ease of work. This is great. You don't have to do a lot of work. Okay. Now, to begin digitally signing the documents after we've written up our terms, because geez, it's midnight. My client's headed to Maui. My client didn't decide to give me a ticket to go to Maui to get the contracts physically signed, but they do have their tablets and their phone devices and of course their computer devices with them. Now, if your client doesn't have an email address, and what I mean does not have an email address, they don't have an email address, you can't do this. And there are some clients out there that don't have email. Also, gauge the time before you do any digital signing. It's a quick. How comfortable are you with tech? I'm pretty comfortable. Good. I'd like to send you documents for digital signatures. I'll walk you through it. Or the other side of the transaction. Hi, I'd like to submit an offer to your listing. Do you accept digitally signed documents? Hopefully the other agent has already pre-vetted their clients to see if they will accept digitally signed documents. Because not every client does. Not every escrow, not every title, not every lender does. Very few, but there are still some out there. So we got to do some communication ahead of time. So now we're ready to digitally sign. So how we do that after we write out the contract, we're in the transaction. We're going to come over here to the top left right-hand side to this big giant blue button that says prepare signing. When it says prepare signing, we're going to ignore the digital ink option because again, like with the classic version of Zipforms, digital ink is going to go away. It's the old version. Because we're accessing the free information or the free tools, we're going to click on use AuthentiSign. From here, we're going to name the session. Offer for 123 Main Street. Bob Smith offer for 123 Main Street. Now, underneath this, now this is something that's new. In the previous version of the system, the documents were automatically sent into the transaction. In this case, the documents aren't going to be automatically sent. They will be automatically emailed, but you can choose that the signed documents not only are received via email to you and your client, but you can also tell the system to automatically deliver the signed documents back into the transaction. All you need to do is select a folder. In this case, I'm going to select the main folder for the documents to appear in of the transaction. From here, I'm going to click create. Now, when I click on create, it's a simple 3-step process. Step number 1, when AuthentiSign opens up, we're defaulted to the signers. So I got to add the signers. Here, I'm going to add the participants. I'm going to add them from where? Anyone? On my list of choices here of adding a participant, where am I going to add my signers from? From the transaction, right? I've got their name on the contracts, right? Their first name, last name, email address. So here I'm going to select add from transaction. You all of a sudden notice here that it now references Bob Smith, Jane Smith, and of course myself. Anybody in the participants section that we added earlier, title, lender, escrow, agents, selling side, buying side, whatever, are all going to be here. Simply select my clients and myself that need to sign these documents. Here you'll notice type is a remote signer, meaning that they're an electronic remote signer. Leave it at that. From here, we're going to select those 3. And now it puts them right here. Now, in the past, Mike, you were probably used to when we selected a signer, we put them in an order, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually that order meant Number one gets the email first before number two, number three, number four. Number four will not get the email until number one, two, and three have signed, completed, and reviewed the documents. In this case, however, there is no order. As a matter of fact, this indicates right away that all these signers will get the documents automatically at the same time. Automatically. So way better than DocuSign right now, where if I select the signer, it does put them in an order. I can change that around if I want to. Now, if you're like me, maybe you've got spouses sharing one email address. In that case, maybe I do want to put it in an order because I don't want my spouses signing for each other. You may or may not know this, but here in the state of California, signers are not allowed to sign for each other, not even spouses. Probably because divorce rate in our state is over 72%. 72%. Do not let spouses sign for each other. Will not make a very pleasant conversation between you and your broker. Okay? As a matter of fact, there have been a couple of lawsuits when it was found out that a spouse signed for the other one and they were going through a divorce. The wife found out that her husband was signing all these documents on as her, and their agent knew it.
Because they use the same email.
Well, as a matter of fact, it even went as far as the husband said, my wife and I, I'll sign for my wife and just send it to my email address. When she found out about it and her lawyer found out about it, was not a pretty sight. So leave the spouse, in this case, if husband and wife or the spouses share one email address, then you're going to turn on the signing order. When you turn on the signing order, this now puts them in that signing order 1, 2, 3, meaning that Bob will get the email before Jane. That means I'm going to give them a call and make sure that at the time of signing the contracts, I go over the contracts. Hey, Bob, I sent you and Jane an email. Is Jane there? So that way I can go over the contracts together. Oh, she's not? Not a problem. What time is she going to return? You and I will go over the contract. She'll sign on your behalf. And then at the end of the time, it will then get resent to your email address for Jane to sign. What time will she be back so I can go over the contracts with her? Those are the conversations you're supposed to be having. If you're not, you're putting yourself at huge risk. So be mindful of that. Oh, Jane doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Jane says that I can sign for her behalf. That's great, but legally she's supposed to sign individually. Unless she's giving you a formal power of attorney, you cannot legally sign.
So you're saying before you're sending, you call them to confirm the guys.
Because maybe in this case, Jane says, hey, I can get to the documents in 5 to 10 minutes. Does she want to wait for Bob to sign? No. We can easily switch the order. Come over to the 6 dots, click and hold with my mouse, drag it above and below, and we can switch the order. Or click in the number slot, and I can write in the order that I need. So it becomes a choice. If you don't, not a big deal. You can leave it off. Turning it off or having it stay off means that everybody gets the email all at the same time.
There's no time option to say.
We haven't gotten there yet, no. But in this case, it goes out within 5 minutes to all 3 signers. Now that requires me to have multiple phone call conversations at the same time, but we can do that. Just depends on you and your choice. Now with our signers selected, chosen, we're now going to go to the docs. Here we did earlier in our workspace. These are the contracts we're currently going to sign. If I needed to, I can go to where it says add a form or document and pick out other forms that wasn't in my workspace, or upload a PDF file to be digitally signed. Here in this case, we've already got the documents selected. Now, more importantly, the tools. The tools. This is where we can add in areas of signature and or initial. Now, because we had selected the signers, the participants from the transaction, you notice that they're already color coded. If we look on the forms here, there are their areas pre-placed.
Is that already set?
That's already set. They haven't signed anything, but this is where the system has indicated. Bob signs here, Jane signs there, I will sign here. And or initial. So again, 90% of the forms already have those digital areas pre-placed. So less work I have to do. But wait, we have that PDF file that we need to look at. So in this case, we jump to that PDF document. And we see here in this PDF file, there is no place for Jane, Bob, or myself to sign and or initial. So how do I do that? Here are the tools. At the top, the current signer I'm editing, and now under the actions, I can drag and drop initials, signatures, or whatever onto this form. So how we do that? Very easily. Select the signer, find their task, click and hold, drag it, place it where it needs to go. So maybe Mike has emailed me his disclosures for his seller, for my buyers to review. Now I can upload with that add docs button, upload all 48 disclosures. Now with my signers, I will now place the initials and signatures on all 48 PDF documents. Okay. So again, simply find the signer, find the task, drag, click and hold, drag and place. This is where their initials will be going. Where do you see that? Oh, here? This is a checkbox. So if I wanted a checkbox, I can drag over a checkbox for Jane, but I don't want to do that. So I'll get rid of those. But in this case, maybe I've got a form like this where I need all 3 sets of signatures and or initials on here, right? And maybe there's an area at the bottom of the form where we're pretty much all close together. Do I want to have to necessarily go through each individual to do that? Wouldn't it be great to do something super quick? If I click on the down arrow here, instead of selecting the individual, there's a choice here that says all signers. What I can now do under all signers is maybe say, in this case, drag a signing field, place it, and now I've got all 3 sets of signatures here. Now what I can do is simply move them appropriately to their appropriate spots. Again, makes it a little bit more efficient. Now, at the end of the day, once at least there's something done for every signer on every form. Now I can come back over to the top right, click next. From here, I can give them a time frame. Now, the old system allowed us 7 days per signer to sign the documents. In this case, all signers have at least a default of a month. Do I want to give them a month to sign a purchase agreement? No. I want to give them what? 24 hours or maybe no more than 3 days. And some of us might need reminders. Guess what? I'm going to give them a reminder once a day at 9 a.m. in their email. Because I know Mike likes to sleep till noon. I'm going to make sure he puts an email reminder at noon every day to sign his documents. Now, I'm just going to hit send. When I hit send, now the initial email goes out within less than 5 minutes.
So how does it merges all these signs to one document?
It just doesn't. If I knew that, I wouldn't be here teaching you today. I'd be paid the big bucks, right? But it doesn't. The system just doesn't.
They come back signed but missing dates. Are you allowed to do that?
When you say missing dates, usually each signature or initial automatically has a date within it, as well as a date box next to it. Now, if you miss something on the actual contract, then you've got to cancel this one, edit the contract, and then resend it out. Why? Because the signatures being requested are the current terms of that contract at that moment. So if things need to be modified. Say Mike said, oh, you know what? My wife and I changed our minds. We want to put 50% down instead of 25%. Well, I've already sent out the contracts to them. If they already signed it, that's whatever the current term is. Or maybe Mike signed it, but not his wife. I've now got to cancel or stop that signature session from being completed. Go back and going back into Zipforms, retyping up the contract or changing the terms, and then resend it out for new signatures. Because at that point, that locked PDF is whatever that current term is. Yes, ma'am.
I missed where you got to that final and you sending an email. Was it on the next button? Is that clicked in?
Next, choose an expiration, right? Like, oh, choose an expiration date, choose a reminder. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it defaults to a month to expire. And then at that point, the client then gets an email. And we'll go into my email super quickly. There you go. Signatures are being requested for the Bob Smith offer. Now all they got to do, start signing. Now, a lot of people go, well, geez, digital signing is complicated. Let me show you how easy it is. Number one, what I love about this versus DocuSign, they give you the terms of their agreement. Please at least make sure that the client reads through them because they will tell and explain to them the legalities behind what a digital signature is. Okay. Hopefully they will accept the terms. When they do that, here we got the form. Now, the moment I hit start over here to the top right, it jumps me down. Whoops. It really did jump me down far. Jumps me down to the first area. The moment they click, and before I do that, I'm going to actually do this. When I click on that sign here, a window comes up. How do you want your name to appear on the contract? Now, they can choose a font style. AuthentiSign gives you about 8 or 10 different font styles on how your name is to appear. Or if they have a touch screen or a mouse, they can literally write their signatures in an initial, or maybe they have a picture of their signature in initial. They can upload it. 9 times out of 10, people will always choose a font style. From here, they hit set signature. And now when they click, it now drops them to the next page. Now, by the way, what's one thing I just didn't do? I haven't read anything. Haven't read a single thing. So what does that say? It's too easy nowadays not to read what it is that you're signing in the digital age. This is why it's very important that you go over the contract at either time of signing or around time of signing. That's why we send out an email. Hey, just to review the contracts that we went over, the current terms, this, that, and the other. Before you even send it out, I probably do a Zoom meeting if you're not physically in front of them. Then at the end, do an email. We had a meeting on this date. We went over the contracts. Here were your concerns. This is what I'm changing about the contract, or this is what the terms are on the contract. Again, backup paper copy of what your conversations were. Because now when they go through this, and maybe you even give them a call. Okay, you go through this, you click on that, and we are now just signing the life away. Now, when they come up to an optional area of a contract, like the liquidated damages, you'll notice here, instead of it being red mandatory, it's optional in blue. When they click on it, do you accept this term or decline it? Why? Because it says in that paragraph, this is an optional initial. Hopefully they will accept. Again, the other one, arbitration and disputes. Hopefully they will accept. And then it goes right back to the mandatory. And what I also like about this, as we're going through at the top, your progress, you got 20 of 27 signatures and initials completed. You're 74% there. And we're just going right through this list. By the way, that PDF document, which is coming up right now, there it is. There's their initial, there's their signature. At the end, we're complete. The moment they hit complete, the next signer signs. Or again, they're signing at the same time. Once all signers are done signing the document and they hit complete, 2 things happen. Number one, every signer gets a copy of the signed completed document with all signatures. If they do it immediately right after, they're only going to see their signature. So have them wait until they get the final completed done. You and your clients will get an automatic copy email. Now, once that is done, because we told the system to send that back into the transaction, the signed completed documents, within the first 5 minutes of the last required signature being done on this contract, in the transaction itself, there will be the PDF files that will say Authentisign completed. And hopefully I have one here that has that, and I hopefully didn't delete it earlier today. Let me see here. Was it possibly this one? Nope, not that one. We'll go to one more. Nope. Okay. So I must have gotten rid of them by mistake. But what typically happens is that in the transaction itself, within the first couple of minutes, there it is. The signed PDF documents appear. Now, what's nice about that is that now I can open up or select the document. And now I can print, email the documents to the other side. So once the signers are all done, I've told the system to put it back into the main folder. There it is. Now I can select it and email it off to the other agent along with any other required documents like proof of funds or my deposit check, blah, 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 blah. Anybody like any of this? Anybody excited about today? Anybody practicing this right now that we were going over?
Yeah.
Couple of it. Good. All right. There are no other questions? Look at that. Right on time, 12 o'clock. I want to thank everybody for attending today. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to either call me or email me. My phone number is 949. 949-586-6800. My extension here is 104. Or feel free to email me at Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org. And I didn't see any heads explode or ears bleed. That's a good sign, right? Wasn't too overwhelming, I hope. Like drinking from a fire hose, you got a lot of information about you. And look at that, my last class for the year. So now we're ready for hopefully January of next year. Anybody here ready for holidays? Anybody here going out showing property after this? A couple of you?
Me.
Good. I want you to be careful.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Question.
Yes, sir.
You said December they changed the forms. What day of December?
I think they usually do it around the 27th of the month, so in the next couple of weeks. So I would say like 3 weeks ago, I didn't see that December list. So now seeing it probably after the events and everything, we should be seeing those soon.
Changes to your lease contract.
There were a couple of leases in there. The big one was in June, where they changed a lot of the language from landlord to housing provider
So it
to
was
mean fair housing. To be
the old version, the old form, is it? Or
nope. That's why the forms are constantly updated. Now, if I started a transaction, say today, then technically, legally, that form is still legal. So if say tomorrow they updated the new contract or the purchase agreement, my contract's still viable because at the time that I wrote up that offer on that current contract, that was what was legal.
there is a prepared date, right?
Right.
So there's
That's
no-
why it's super important that you go through that. And if I go through those forms, I'm always accessing the latest and
There's
greatest.
no more loads.
No more lords or ladies. All right. Yes, sir.
Part of offline about this class, but considering training that I was supposed to take from my brokerage, but I wasn't finding it on the calendar. And I'm just wondering, how do I go by signing up for it if it's not showing up on the calendar?
Which one? Are you talking about your code of ethics?
No, it's residential purchase agreement training.
Okay, now if that's being done by your broker, I would go to your broker and find out from your calendar from them. If you're talking about the,
They told me that I was taking it at my association.
okay, so then we probably haven't, to do that, And by the way, you all are free to go. If you're here this afternoon, I will see you all this afternoon for social media stuff, but other than that,
If we
have a great
sign
day.
up for the next class, but do not show up, will we receive a recording?
Yes, you can. I'll make sure it's recorded.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so. Sir, let us get into